the Mahabharata. In the Adi Parva, we learn that sage Sauti is requested at the conclave of sages by sage Shaunaka to recite the Mahabharata to him. Sage Sauti starts telling him the story of when Janmejaya was conducting the snake sacrifice and Vedavyasa had come to visit it, to honor it. And Janmejaya requested Vedavyasa to narrate the story of the Mahabharata, the Itihasa as put down by Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa instructs his student Vaishampayana to recite the story to Janmejaya. Now, Janmejaya listens to a short, brief, abridged version of the Mahabharata from Vaishampayana, and his interest is piqued. He wishes to know more, he is intrigued. So he requests Vaishampayana to recite the entire history to him. And Vaishampayana starts with a story. Now, when we usually listen to the story of Mahabharata, or as we may have read it in our childhood, we start mostly with the story of Shantanu and Ganga. But the story that Vaishampayana starts with is well before this. This is the story of the king Vasu. Now, King Vasu ruled over the kingdom of Chevi, and he decided to gain more spiritual powers and started doing penance. Now, Indra got scared that Vasu might be trying to usurp his throne, and he comes down and he requests Vasu to stop his penance and rule the earth and spread piety and goodness, and tells him that like Indra rules the heavens, Vasu can rule the earth. Vasu agrees, and Indra decides to gift him 3 objects. The first one is a bamboo stick. This stick Vasu is supposed to use to fight against evil and injustice, and Vasu uses it, and later he has it consecrated in the ground and worshipped as a symbol of Indra. Now, classical dancers may be able to understand what I'm talking about, because in classical dance we have the concept of the Jarjara Sthapana, where the stick is consecrated on the stage and worshipped before the performance begins in order to chase evil away. The second gift that Indra gives Vasu is a garland of flowers, of lotuses which will never fade. And as long as Vasu wears them, he can never be wounded in battle. The third gift that Indra gives Vasu is an aerial car, a celestial chariot which can fly in the air. And hence Vasu from that day is now known as Uparichara Vasu, he who keeps roaming up in the skies. Vasu goes down to his kingdom and he starts ruling, and he's a great king, he's a just king. He has 5 sons. They are known as Mavella, Yadu, I think it is Brihadratha, and then there is 2 more sons whose names I am forgetting right now. These sons go ahead and they establish their own kingdoms and they become lovely kings. Around this time, a complaint comes to the court of King Vasu that a mountain called Kolahala is trying to violate a river called Shuktimati. And once Vasu gets this information, he rushes down to the place and he frees the river from the embraces of the mountain. But because of the embrace of the mountain, the violation, the river gives birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The boy is made the commander-in-chief of the army of Uparichara Vasu, and the girl he marries. Her name is Kritika. He marries this girl. One day, when the queen is in her season and is about to approach Vasu in order to impregnate her, at the same time, the ancestors of Uparichara Vasu visit him and tell him that he needs to kill a deer in order to perform their shraddha and satiate them. Now, the command of the ancestors is not something that Vasu can neglect. So he decides to go to the forest in order to hunt a deer. He goes into the forest, his mind is full of his beautiful wife who is waiting for him. It is a time of spring, the entire forest is looking beautiful, and Vasu comes to an Ashoka tree, which is thick with flowers. He can't even see the branches of the tree. That's how many flowers are right now adorning that tree. He decides to rest under the tree and the fragrance of the flowers and honey, they completely mesmerize him. He's filled with desire, he's excited, and he spills his semen. The point at which it happens, he immediately realizes that his wife's season cannot be wasted, and he collects his semen on the leaf of a tree, and then he consecrates it with mantras, powerful mantras to protect it. He calls a hawk and asks the hawk to deliver it to his wife. The hawk carries the leaf in its beak and is flying over the river when it is attacked by another hawk who mistakes that leaf to be a piece of meat. And in the fight between the two hawks, the semen falls into the sea, where it is swallowed by a fish. Many months later, that fish is caught by a fisherman, and when the fisherman cuts the belly of the fish, he is surprised to find two babies inside it, a boy and a girl. He takes it to the king, and the boy later grows up to become a great king of a kingdom called Matsya. Yes, you remember this kingdom. This is the same kingdom where later the Pandavas would hide during their incognito period. The girl is handed to the fisherman to be raised as his own daughter. Now, why this happens, why Vasu decides to give away the girl and keep only the son, is a matter of concern, and is also a matter of introspection to understand why this happens. This girl is handed to the fisherman, who takes her home and rears her as his own daughter. And this girl, who grows up with the smell of fish, is named as Kali or Satyavati, and she will later become the queen of Shantanu and bear him Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Satyavati will of course meet Parashara Rishi much earlier in her life, and she will bear a son by him, and that is the time at which the smell of the fish, the Matsya Gandha, will leave her body and she will become Yojanagandha. The smell of the fish will transform into a fragrance, and she will not be the only woman to be called Yojanagandha. Draupadi will later also be known by this same name. This is something that we may have to give a little thought to when we also understand that when Satyavati is with Parashar Rishi and bears him a son, Vyasa, Parashara takes that child away. But if Satyavati had given birth to a daughter, then Parashara would not have taken the daughter away. Satyavati would have to rear her till she is ready for marriage, and then maybe Parashara would have come down to help facilitate the marriage. Why the girl child was not kept with the parent but given away is something for us to introspect about. But this is literally the first story of the Mahabharata, from which we can now trace the entire story till the end. What happens before this is of course the sacrifice of King Janmejaya and the story of Astika and Takshaka, and all this being retold by sage Sauti at the conclave of the sages. Indra gave Uparichara Vasu 3 gifts. He gave him a bamboo stick. He gave him a garland which would never fade. And he gave him an celestial aerial car. So if I were to kind of put them together, it funnily reminds me of the Deathly Hallows as it comes in Harry Potter. Okay, just for fun. So wish you all a very happy new year, and hope to be bringing lots of more stories to you from the Mahabharata. Please take care, stay safe, and always wear your mask and use sanitizers. Not possible to talk about the Mahabharata without doing some archery. So here goes.